Volkswagen is not struggling because it forgot to build cars. That would be too easy. Volkswagen is struggling because the definition of a car changed, and the corporate machine around Volkswagen did not change fast enough. But here is the strange part. Inside the same Volkswagen Group, one brand is doing surprisingly well. Škoda. Same group, different result. And that tells us something very uncomfortable about Volkswagen's real problem. Volkswagen is not dead. Volkswagen is not a small company in panic. This is one of the largest automotive groups on Earth. It has global scale, legendary brands, huge factories, engineering depth, dealer networks, purchasing power, and decades of customer trust. That is exactly what makes this story interesting, because when a small company fails, the explanation is usually simple. Not enough money, not enough people, not enough scale. But when a giant like Volkswagen starts struggling, the explanation is more interesting, because Volkswagen has almost everything a company could want, and somehow the future still looks difficult. The group's revenue is still enormous, deliveries are still massive, the machine is still moving, but profits are under pressure. China is harder, North America is harder, software is harder, electric vehicles are harder. Dealers are frustrated, and the old advantages of the company no longer guarantee the next victory. This is not a collapse story, it is a transformation story, and transformations are where big companies reveal what they are really made of. Volkswagen was built for a very specific automotive world, a world of engineering excellence, global platforms, large factories, long product cycles, strong dealer networks, regional volume, brand hierarchy, and the beautiful old German idea that if you engineer the product well enough, the customer will eventually understand why it is good. For decades, that worked. Volkswagen knew how to build cars at scale. Audi could represent premium engineering. Porsche could represent performance engineering. Škoda could represent practical value. Seat and Cupra could target younger, more emotional buyers. The group was not just a company, it was an automotive empire. And empires love structure, they love committees, they love platforms, they love long planning cycles, they love internal coordination. And when the world is stable, that structure looks like discipline. But when the market changes quickly, the same structure starts to look like weight. The automotive market did not simply move from gasoline to electric. That is the beginner version of the story. The real shift is bigger. The car became a software product, a battery product, a data product, a user experience product, a charging ecosystem product, a geopolitical product, and in China, it became a speed product. Chinese competitors did not just build electric cars, they built cars around software, screens, battery economics, fast model cycles, local customer preferences, and aggressive pricing. That is a very different game. Volkswagen was optimized to perfect the car. The new market rewards companies that can update the car. That difference matters because a company built around engineering perfection can struggle when the customer starts asking for software speed. A company built around global platforms can struggle when China, Europe, and the United States are suddenly moving in different directions. A company built around dealer networks can struggle when new competitors control the entire customer experience directly. Volkswagen's problem is not that it lacks capability. Volkswagen's problem is that the rules of the game changed from mechanical excellence to organizational speed. And organizational speed is much harder for a giant. This is where Volkswagen's software problem becomes symbolic. Every legacy automaker says software is important, but saying software is important is not the same as becoming software native. For a traditional automaker, software often becomes another department, another budget, another program, another governance structure. But in the new car market, software is not just a feature. Software is the daily experience of the car. It is the interface, the update, the navigation, the charging logic, the driver assistance, the frustration, the delight, the thing customers touch every time they use the product. Cariad created to solve the software challenge, but Cariad itself became a symbol of how hard it is for an old industrial giant to move like a software company. Delays, restructuring, layoffs, and internal complexity are not just operational issues, they are signs of a deeper problem. Volkswagen tried to become a software company without stopping being a committee company, and that is a very expensive contradiction. The same contradiction appears in the United States. Volkswagen owns Scout, a revived American off-road brand positioned around EV SUVs and trucks. On paper, Scout is exactly the kind of thing Volkswagen needs: American identity, EV credibility, a fresh brand, a more direct relationship with customers, a chance to compete in a market where Tesla, Rivian, and other newer players changed what customers expect. But then the old system appears: dealers, franchise laws, state-by-state rules, existing relationships, powerful retail networks.
And suddenly, the future has to negotiate with the past. Scout wants a more direct customer model. Traditional dealers do not want to be bypassed. And this is not just a dealer conflict. It is the old automotive operating system fighting the new one. Volkswagen wants innovation, but innovation becomes complicated when it threatens the partners, contracts, and structures that helped build the company in the first place. That is the curse of legacy success. The system that made you strong becomes the system you cannot easily escape. And now comes the interesting part, because inside the same Volkswagen Group, Škoda is doing something very important. It is winning by being clear. Škoda is not trying to be the most glamorous brand in the world. It is not trying to be Porsche. It is not trying to be Tesla. It is not trying to be a luxury lifestyle statement. It has a much simpler promise: practical cars, good value, smart packaging, clear customer benefit, reliable European appeal. In a market where many brands are confusing customers with expensive EV transitions, unclear positioning, and software promises, Škoda has something incredibly powerful. Customers understand what it is for. That sounds simple, but in large corporations, simplicity is rare. Škoda's success shows that the Volkswagen Group is not out of talent, it is not out of engineering, it is not out of product capability. The group still knows how to create a brand that works. But Škoda works because the customer promise is clear, and that exposes the real Volkswagen problem. The issue is not only whether Volkswagen can build electric cars. The issue is whether Volkswagen can make customers understand why they should choose Volkswagen in the new automotive world. This is the part that most people miss. Having many brands can be a superpower, but only if every brand has a clear job. In the old world, Volkswagen Group's brand ladder made sense. Škoda was practical value. Volkswagen was mainstream quality. Audi was premium technology. Porsche was performance and status. But the EV transition blurs those lines. If every brand needs electric SUVs, digital interfaces, software features, premium screens, subscriptions, charging promises, and sustainability language, the customer can start wondering, what is the difference? Why Volkswagen instead of Škoda? Why Audi instead of Volkswagen? Why Cupra instead of VW? Why Scout instead of another electric SUV? A multi-brand group becomes dangerous when the brands start competing for the same customer with slightly different badges and very similar promises. And inside the company, shared platforms create efficiency, but they also create compromise. One system has to satisfy many brands, price points, regions, customer types, and management teams. That is how a great industrial structure slowly becomes a strategic fog machine. Everyone gets something, nobody gets exactly what they need. So what is Volkswagen's real problem? It is not one thing, it's a system problem. China became faster, software became central, EV economics became brutal, the US market became complicated, dealers became a constraint, legacy platforms became heavy, brand roles became harder to explain, and the corporate machine had to manage all of this at the same time. That is why Volkswagen is such a perfect corporate truth case. Because the problem is not that people inside Volkswagen are stupid, quite the opposite. The problem is that smart people inside complex systems often create complex answers. More committees, more transformation programs, more platforms, more regional strategies, more brand coordination, more internal alignment. But sometimes the market does not reward the best internal alignment. It rewards the clearest external promise. And that is where Škoda becomes uncomfortable. Because Škoda reminds the group that customers do not buy transformation programs, they buy cars that make sense. Volkswagen does not need to become Škoda. That would be the wrong lesson. Volkswagen is a different brand with a different history, different scale, and different expectations. But Volkswagen can learn something from Škoda. Clarity beats complexity. A brand must have a job. A product must have a reason. A software strategy must improve the customer experience, not just satisfy internal architecture. An EV strategy must answer the question customers actually ask. Why this car? Why this brand? Why now? For decades, Volkswagen's answer was simple: German engineering for the people. But in the new market, that answer is no longer enough. Because the people now compare Volkswagen with Tesla, BYD, Rivian, Kia, Chinese EV startups, software expectations, charging experiences, monthly payments, screens, apps, and the feeling that the car is either part of the future or a carefully electrified version of the past. Volkswagen's challenge is not to build more complexity. It is to remove enough complexity so the customer can see the value again. Volkswagen is still massive. It still has brands, factories, engineers, scale, history, and global reach. But the future does not reward size by itself. The future rewards speed, software competence, brand clarity, customer experience, local adaptation, and the courage to simplify. The irony is that the Volkswagen Group already has proof that clarity works. It's called Škoda. So Volkswagen's problem is not that the group cannot build successful cars. It can. The problem is whether the Volkswagen brand itself can escape the complexity of the machine around it. Because Volkswagen is not failing because it forgot how to build cars. It is struggling because the future is asking for a different company.
If you found today's insights valuable, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. We're curious to hear your perspective. Let us know your biggest takeaway in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.